imagery of archons is very strong in Gnostic literature, and because it has become mixed with tales of cosmological dualism, many have come to believe that the archons are the result of a cosmic era or fall. The reality, as discussed earlier, is that there was no great cosmic era, just a misperception caused by ignorance. Yet at the same time, this ignorance has created a doorway through which fallen forms can enter, and these archons, or whatever we call them, which keep us from appreciating our own misperceptions, it is through our permission that they enter the earth sphere. This is the idea which gave birth to the fall of man traditions. Since man in his ignorance created fallen forms and allowed fallen entities to enter into the earth stream, then ultimately man is responsible for the prescription of his planet, displeasure and wishes. The issue of archons is complex, for there is an interaction between our own thought forms and real falling astral entities. These fields are long. These entities to interface with our own unconscious accordingly. They can change form according to the language of the culture they communicate though, and being a mixture of our own thought forms and fallen spirits can mimic our own hidden desires and needs. While in 80 periods we may have as demons, incubus and succubus, in the present we have aliens, UFO abductions and medical experiments by creatures we cannot see. In the modern memo, these archons are sometimes called ultra-terrestrials. However, we must realize that these forms are spiritual in origin, sure. They may be other races within our universe, assuredly so, but it does seem the majority of UFO sightings and them reflect our own fears, errors, desires and plans of a occult origin. The world is the work of lowly powers, which though they may be descended from and do not know the true God and obstruct the knowledge of Him in the constance over which they rule. The genesis of these lower powers, the archons, and in horror, that of all of the orders of being outside God, including the world itself, is the main theme of Gnostic speculation. The universe, the domain of the archons, is like a vast prison whose innermost dungeon is the earth. The scene of man's life. Around and above it, the cosmic spheres are ranged like concentric enclosing shells. Most frequently there are 7 spheres of the planets surrounding by the 8th that of the fixed stars. The religious significance of this cosmic archetype lies in the idea that everything which intervenes between here and the beyond serves to separate from God, not merely by spatial distance but by active demonic force. Thus the vastness and multiplicity of the cosmic system express the degree to which man is removed from God. The archons collectively rule over the world, and each individually in his sphere is a warder of the cosmic prison. Their tyrannical world rule is called Heimarming, universal fate, aims at the enslavement of man. As guardian of his sphere, each archon bars the passage to the souls, then seek to ascend after death in order to prevent their escape from the world and their return couldn't have guessed. We all know he said to himself, because that is why I am here, to burn the walls, to tear it down, to meditate, to break each chain. Thou shalt not muzzle the ox as he treadeth out the corn. He thought, remembering the Torah, the divine invasion, Philip K. Dick, Harper Collins, 1981. For we contend not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against the powers, against the world rulers of this present darkness. Ephesians 6:12. While the archons and the vineyard are creations of bags and birds, while your youngs, the fowls of it is a source of power. This is one of the major problems with the archons we create. They attract forms and spirits that shouldn't be honest, and hence follow them.
The battle within. This model becomes more complex when we start to consider its full ramifications. If the Watchers interbred with mankind and produced giants, then this is bizarre enough, however. If their hanged genetic makeup due to their fall has mixed with ours, then mind is a mixture of two life streams. This mixture is found hinted at in all literature. In Norse mythology, we are a mixture of the giants and the breath of Odin. In some schools of Gnosticism, we are a mixture of pre-Adamite and Adamite stock. In others, we are a mixture of the soil of the earth and the divine breath. This biological conflict is important as it explains why we have such different models of experience. There is so much evidence for man's violence and destructiveness, way even beyond that of the animal kingdom. And yet also so much evidence for man's love, beauty, and transcendence. In Gnostic terms, this is because there are two fields of influence: the static, Brahma, and the dialectic. These fields pull us towards the light and towards matter. The drive towards matter is necessary but has been overlaid with the artificial desires and drives of the fallen forms. Hence, the dialectic field is based on an evolutionary necessity, but actually works against us. It is important to see what this clash is not. It is not a clash between body and spirit and spirit matter as its place, and is a necessary teacher. The clash is between spirit, static field, and the artificial forms created by the Watchers and ultimately by ignorance. Static field, dialectic field. In summary, in Gnosticism, evil is many things. It cannot simply be reduced
may seem evil, but this is a problem of perspective. While disease and death may seem evil, in the greater picture they aren't. There are many partial spirits, such as which can only work in a restricted way and hence can appear evil only because we do not understand their limited focus and purpose. Chemical evil is created through ignorance. It's mental, only human, but spirit beings of very different sins. It could be angels, demons, which are destructive, but this is of ignorance, not out of Kashgat design. Since thoughts have power, man's ignorance has dire effects. It is capable of creating thought vibrations which congregate in the collective unconscious and then, if given enough power, can move into the lower astral plane. These forms also collect ignorant rational forms and create principalities within an astral odd. These archons, Lord, Anton, influence and control man and his civilization. For man is caught between the fields of energy created by the forces of light, and the fields forged by the Watchers, ultimately through ignorance. The Gnostic concept of time, the concept of progress and unlimited history is primarily a 19th century invention. While it may have first appeared with the Renaissance and humanist philosophy, it was the industrialization of the West and the advent of Darwinian which really set the ball rolling. Progress as a philosophy has become so deeply ingrained in both the sciences and arts that any modern study within both fields accepts as a foundation a belief in evolutionism. A traditional view of history is at variance with this approach. It is inevitably cyclic and emphasizes the ebbs and flows of culture. While the cycle may return to itself, the focus is on decline rather than development within the Norse traditions. The gods are ultimately destroyed, within these psychic station, conflict and preservation of icons. While within Gnosticism, the Omega Day ends the cycle and a new heaven and new earth begins. The fifth system outlines this cycle in forward detail. A whole of creation is governed by the series of service.
The Krita or Satya Yuga is the golden age, the age of spirit, and it is from here that things get successively worse until the Kali age, which ends in an apocalypse of water and fire. Each age, in succession, is shorter than its predecessor, is more intense and more material. The Kali age is the shortest, most materialistic and intensely destructive. It is this age we are in now, the Kali. sometimes described as the age of the wolf due to its ferocity and violence. There are many different dating systems, but according to the Mahabharata, the Kali Yuga started on the midnight of 17th and 18th the Kebulate. The 3-1-on-2 beat singing and represents the final stage of the cycle. It is interesting that this date coincides with the start of the fifth sun period of the Mayans, which they believe climaxes in 2012. All kings occupying the earth in the Kali age who'll be wanting and tranquility. Strong in anger, taking pleasure at all times in lying and dishonesty, inflicting death on women, children, and cows, prone to take the paltry possessions of others, with character that is mostly tamas, rising to power and soon falling. They will be short-lived, ambitious, of little virtue, and greedy. People follow the customs of others and be adulterated with them. Peculiar, undisciplined, rebellion, prohibition is just supported by rulers. Because they go on living with perversion, they will be Hurans. And Dharma becomes very weak in the Kali age. And people commit sin in their mind, speech, and enchantments, quarrels, plague, fatal diseases, famines, drought, and calamities of feet, testimonies and proofs have no certainty. There's no criterion left when the Kali age settles down. People become poor in vigor and luster. They are wicked, full of anger, sinful, false, and avaricious, bad at ishikas, bad education, bad dealings, and bad earnings excite fear. The whole batch becomes greedy and untruthful. Many Sudras will become kings, and many heretics will be seen. There will arise various sects. Sannyasins wearing clothes colored red, many profess to have supreme knowledge because thereby they will easily earn their livelihood in the Kali age. There will be many false religionists. India will become desolate by repeated calamities, short lives, and various diseases. Everyone will be miserable owing to the dominance of vice and tamoguna. People will freely commit abortion. Earth will be valued only for her mineral treasures. Money alone will confer nobility. Power will be the sole definition of virtue. Pleasure will be the only reason for marriage. Lust will be the only reason for womanhood. Falsehood will win out in disputes. Being dry of water will be the only definition of land. Praiseworthiness will be measured by accumulated wealth. Impropriety will be considered good conduct, and only feebleness will be a reason for unemployment. Boldness and arrogance will be equivalent to scholarship. Only those without wealth will show honesty. Just a bath will amount to purification, and charity will be the only virtue. Abduction will be marriage. Simply to be well-dressed will signify propriety, and any hard torch water will be deemed a pilgrimage site. The pretense of greatness will be the pole of it, and powerful men with many severe faults will rule over all the classes on earth. Oppressed by their excessively greedy rulers, people will hide in valleys between mountains. Here they will gather honey, vegetables, roots, fruits, birds, flowers, and so forth. Suffering from cold, wind, heat, and rain, they will put on clothes made of tree bark and leaves. And no one will live as long as 23 years. Thus, in the Kali age, humankind will be utterly destroyed. Hindu Purana. Hindu Purana. The four ages correlate remarkably well with the image described in the Old Testament book of Daniel, central to Daniel chapter 2. This restriction, an unusual figure, a figure that is used
spiritual consciousness developed from yuga to yuga. Kali Yuga, when technology and matter seems at its greatest, it is actually at the lowest ebb, and the few who find wisdom or achieve the most of all the interplay between Venus' major kingdoms from the 6th century BC onwards. Its primary focus covers immense period of time and sets the stage onto which humanity plays its part.
As the ages of gold, silver, bronze, and iron. However, what is especially interested in the Greek in a trans-temporal age which exists between the Copper and Kali Yuga. This age, the age of heroes, is not seen as existence in time. It exists as the path of transfiguration during the Kali Yuga. So while the age may be dark, there is wisdom for those who seek. While the Vedic Indo-European, biblical and Greek traditions may be primarily of a traditional, religious nature, the concept of decline is also found within the work of many great historians. So much so that many speak of the school of historical pessimism. In some way, the major figure within this school was Oswald Spengler. Historical models of cyclic time. Oswald Spengler was born in 18 in Blankenburg, Germany, and educated at the universities of Halle, Munich, and Berlin. On the basis of his extensive studies in mathematics, science, history of philosophy, and art, he formulated a philosophical system that offered an explanation of the history of human culture. In his single important work, The Decline of the West, Spengler attempted to prove that each civilization possesses a unique soul and style of art and thought, and that all cultures pass through a life cycle of birth, growth, decay, and death, comparate a biological cycle of living organisms. In his analysis of the history of Western Europe, Spengler argued that the culture of Europe had entered the final stage of its existence that was to be chiefly a period of technological and political expansion. His other works include The Crucial Years and Man and Technics. The nexus of Spengler's work is that history is not a mechanical series of events, but represents the outward manifestation of a much deeper process. History, according to Spengler, is organic and moves through cycles of summer, spring, autumn, and winter. These cycles are akin to life periods, and there is much in common with Jung's view regarding racial memory. Archetypes and forms, races and nations have collective minds and hence operate on a deeper level than individuals. They cannot be reduced to economic or class processes alone. decline are important as they bring the Yugas into a more historical and academic vein. Spengler does not describe the great cycles of the ages, as the Yugas represented a macrocosmic aspect. Yet his individual civilizations all work through many Yugas, which he represents as organic rational seasons. While there will always be debate about the particulars of Spengler's work, its place. Wizard's understanding of history cannot be denied. The ramifications of an organic view of civilization are very relevant to the Gnostic and Jewish mind. For example, then we can suggest that its various parts have differing levels of importance, ability, significance, and that to reduce all aspects of the body or organic society to an equal footing would be like suggesting an organus into the arm, appendix to the eyes. This basic inequality to be foundation stone in a veiny vision of Gnosticism, which invites a spiritual development over a vast number of lives. To really appreciate the esoteric and religious significance of the cycles, we need to consider three major figures and their outlines of the sacred cycle. Rinigan and Julius Evola. Rinigan and Julius Evola. Genon saw many who liked the press. He was a bitter critic of the cult of personality and avoided worthless shows of ego, while Genon would have avoided offering any biographical details. I think that at least some background is in order. Rene Genon was born on the 15th November 1886 to an architect father. His family owned a vineyard which was passed to his younger brother, as it was obvious Rene had a flair for the academic but was not gifted in either the arts or winemaking. Moving to Paris in his youth, he had contact with many occult organizations, becoming a student of Pappas for a period. By 1912, he had become an initiated. Sufi became deeply immersed in the esoteric of both Hinduism and Islam. After the death of his wife in the 1930s, he left to spend the rest of his life in isolation in Cairo. Rejected the modern world, he again married and lived with his Egyptian wife under the name Abdul Wajahi. He died on the 7th January 1951. Genon's earliest works are meant to clear the way for a real appraisal of esotericism and gnosis. They are bitter and incisive attacks on both theosophy and spiritualism, These two works offer an insightful rejection of the syncretism and bourgeois indulgence that had become the occult movements of the period. He documents the stupidities and extremes of both movements and intimates that it is not the spirits of the dead who are communicating with spiritualists, but subversive forces. He believes that these forces of counter-gnosis and anti-tradition were offering counter-initiations in an attempt to degrade the real and essential gnosis. When the assault against Gnosis was completed, Genin turned his gaze to the very soul of Western man in Orient and Occident. Crisis of Lot and World lays bare the Western soul and documents the clear signs of our degeneration and collapse. These works are uncompromising and offers a critique of destruction modernism is perpetuating on our society. He demands a return to real esotericism as opposed to the false feel-good cults of his time. Genon, however, was not all assault and warfare. His metaphysical works show a great mind which can see to the very heart of esotericism. Certainly his writing on symbolism tried to go in titles such as the symbolism of the cross, fundamental symbol too, and multiple states of being are not easy reading. They demand a concentration which I am afraid many modern minds fed on computer games and TV will find difficult. However, the sheer intellectual exaggeration one can gain from mastering them cannot be easily forgotten. Genon also published hundreds of book reviews in such journals as Lavoie, Dices, and Etudes Traditionals, spewing forth venom mixed with insight in such a form that it has never been repeated again. While his critiques of modern forms are noteworthy and relevant, at times there is a tendency to turn a molehill into a mountain and throw the baby out with the bathwater, for example. While Jung's disciples certainly twisted Gnosticism and alchemy totally out of proportion, it is probably unfair to turn the knife on Jung himself. However, in the end we have to realize Genon was very aware of how the media worked, and hence by providing explosive, venomous and virulent reasons they were guaranteed publication and were always read, and hence, in that sense, they had their effect. Whether you liked what he said or not, you were affected by what he wrote and considered his message. That it is called eyes, a series of cycles. These he takes directly from the Vedic tradition. In practice, this piece Veda history is a record of degeneration. Accordingly, since the earliest times, man has been sinking deeper and deeper into the Maida. The Maida, while view is not populate and materialist in secularists, yet is nevertheless the key focus of Genon's work. In his magnum opus, The Reign of Fantasy and the Signs of the Times, Genon succinctly outlines the process for the hooded of degeneration. As man see is evolving, he is simply accelerating his own destruction. Lenin's standard is a recordology may advance, but only at the cost of spirits. His metaphysic burger spirit code is matter to become successively more physical, more solid, and on a spherical level, more malefic society becomes centered on globalism rather than on nations and individuals, and there is an emphasis on scientific advances rather than simplicity. As we reach the later phases of this digitization and indigenization, and all informatic concepts
most dangerous facet of this process is how, in the darkest age, fissures will appear in the barrier between the physical world and the lower astral planes, and there will be an intrusion of the malefic inhabitants of this inferior subtle domain. This strange and dark prophecy is found in, is also a key to a deeper understanding of the real nature of Aquarius. While the New Agers claim it will be an age of love and mung beans, since the ruler of Aquarius is Saturn, we can inspect a bumpy ride first. While Saturn is also the lord of the golden age. This emphasizes the dual nature of abundance every day when destroyer and guardian of the Garden of Eden.
The key philosophical emphasis within Galen's historical analysis is on the duality of quantity and quality. Quality being the character of the Golden Age. Indeed, the principle of gold. See our discussions of this later. And quantity, the Kali Yuga attribute. Whether it be the decay of the nature of currency, or the clash between craftsmanship and the rule of the machine. This cycle of decay can be seen within the clash between quantity and quality indeed. Many modern criticisms of technology, such as those of Neil Postman, have a strong Gnonian ring. Evola and the revolt against the modern world. Most notable representative of the Deshlevis position. He was also considered one of the most erudite authorities that Grivelvis has imagined. Was able to reduce the great controversy that surrounds him. Julius Caesar Andrea Evola was born in Rome in 1898 to an aristocratic family of Sicilian origin. His childhood was marked by intelligence, close to genius, and he quickly learned many languages. He read widely in German, French, and Italian. He became involved with both the Dada and Futurist movements, and was considered a promising artist. He served with honor during World War I in a regiment of mountain. Survived the war to continue his search for meaning. He made contact with Arturo Regini, who was the coordinator of the UWER group which studied Swatching, Freemasonry, occultism, and other occult traditions. It had a strong interest in the work of Rene Guénon. Evola's natural aristocracy came to to the surface, and he became the learning exponent of developing philosophy of the Yeshua and its successor Kra. Grivola and the Yeshua group became aligned to the natural principles of aristocracy, and while not having a necessarily high opinion of Mussolini, realized the pragmatic value of his revolution and gave him their support. In Evo's early work, adhered to the military frames of Christianity, it was represents and the burying all eyes the heroic virtues of Rome. This work and every work was controversial this small Italy. Later Evola founded La Torre, his own magazine, however, due to conflict with prevailing state, it only lasts 10 issues. His work slowly started to move towards the spiritual side of politics. In the only realness the mountains of the good whales can occur when we ourselves are transformed. In 1945, he was hit by a stray bomb and paralyzed from the waist down. He spent the rest of his life writing, researching and offering guidance to those seeking a spiritual revolution. He died in 1972. His writing are profuse, yet most are not as yet translated into English. It seems there is a great fear regarding the explosive nature of his excitable vision. Ebola was not afraid of offending people's foibles or attacking their sacred cows. Concentration from his readers. However, in return, he offers a worldview, a Weltanschauung that challenges the foundations of currently held beliefs.
The nexus of Evola's revolt against the modern world is an exposition on the cycles of history, an intense and a cycle consideration of the role of esoteric spiritual values. Evola's historical outline takes the yugas a step further. He discusses the cultural focus of each period and the changes that take places within the ideological and spiritual traditions of each epoch. The Golden Age is that of the polar tradition. It was based in the Arctic regions, where days and nights were long, and the axis mundi was a steady focus within the night sky. At this time, the traditions of sky and earth worship were in balance. While the sky had ascendancy, the role of earth was acknowledged and relevant. The classes as seen within the divine caste system were in balance, and creativity, intelligence were rewarded. As the polar age ended and migrations from the Arctic were caused by changes in weather patterns, Aryan man spread across the globe and mankind entered the Silver Age. During the silver or lunar epoch, Earth cults took ascendancy. The feminine and infertility became of paramount significance, and is laid to an emphasis on pagan and Gaia-oriented traditions. The research of Maria Gimbutas and others gives a good outline of the worship that occurred in this period. As the ages unfound a reaction against this earthly epoch, the Dionysian or Copper Age began. The worship of strength, violence, masculine virtues batter against the feminine values, and patriarchal civilizations were formed. While these civilizations were of great historical importance, to achieve their balance they suppressed the lunar or silver cultures, and hence existed as a reaction rolled and as a creative discussion. This fierce soul. It only took so long before the clashes between the two forces dragged man into the current age, that of the Kali Yuga, now lunar and Dionysian, feminine and masculine. Sky and earth are in conflict and battle, and will continue so until the age ends in bloodshed. Evolved found the decadent nature of the modern world in its social and political isms and ologies, and demanded a return to old world values, which he felt were epitomized by the Teutonic knights. Knights who could act as spiritual warriors, waging war against the whole corrupt bourgeois modern system. This concept of spiritual warriorship he elucidated most clearly in his radically revisionist book on Buddhism, The Doctrine of Awakening. In The Doctrine of Awakening, Evola offers a radical reassessment of Buddhism and indeed of the path to completeness. He argues that the modern monastic approach of Buddhism is alien to Gautama's original intent, and suggests that Buddhism was originally a path of action. Accordingly, Evola sees the primal form of Buddhism as centered on a warrior priest rather than on a monk. He uses emphasis as the role of the aristocracy, but in a unique Evolian sense. The term aristocrat here is used in its strictest etymological sense, coming from the Greek word aristos, meaning best. The Buddhist disdain for talking about self and God comes not from disbelief, Evola argues, but from a demand for action. There is no self, so create one. There is no goal, so become one. This approach is certainly at odds with much that passes for modern Buddhism, and yet in these days of Naya-gazing and armchair occultism, one cannot help but be exhilarated by his call to arms. But the simple call is not all of Evola's message. He does not leave us with theory alone. The Doctrine of Awakening reevaluates the basic tenets of Buddhism and examines it in light of a warrior grace gainers, rather than advocating a negative detachment whereby life is exhilarated by
Evola's worship of the heroic brings us full circle. It brings us back to the Yugas and the Greek model with its trans-temporal Heroid age. The age of heroes in the Greek system exists outside the time-based cycle of gold, silver, copper, and iron. It is that call to go beyond the natural entropy of the cycles and achieve greatness in Evola's system. It is the true solar path, the path of the sun which leads back to the axis mundi, the polar golden age!
The Great Year. The concept of precession is central to the cycle known as the Great or Platonic Year. It is based on the simple fact that the Earth does not sit straight. There is a slight wobble in the Earth's axis as it spins. Accordingly, the North Pole describes a circle taking 2590 years to reach the point at which it started. As this process unfolds, the vernal equinox is seen to move backwards through the signs. This backwards movement starts at Capricorn and ends at Aquarius, the reverse of the normal yearly cycle. Many have argued that it was Hipparchus in the 2nd century BC who discovered this. However, there is clear evidence that it was known far earlier to the Mayans and Egyptians. This cycle is the basis of many different systems of mythology. Descentilana and Von Dehend argue in Hamlet's Mill that the Great Year may indeed be the basis for most cosmological systems. The Gnostic tradition suggests that this great cycle was known to the Atlanteans and was encoded into the rituals and architecture of ancient Egypt. Accordingly, the role of the pharaoh and later the priesthood had a special significance in relation to the unfolding of the Great Year. The Egyptian star Gnosis and the rite of rebirth. The central focus of Egyptian rituals was the Great Pyramid. It was connected to the Sphinx and operated as an initiative structure. The pyramid, the right Giza, the sanctuary of the soul and embodied Ra. The solar logos, the rites under its Aiken and a chamber of the chamber, the plane were rites of rebirth. Firstly, the pharaoh became identified with the solar sphere. He mediated the energies of Lomas and hence accelerated the positive current and simulated or transformed the negative. The sun, like the planets and zodiac, was a doorway between the spiritual and physical worlds, and hence emanated forces from the pleroma and from the worlds of the archons. During the rite of rebirth, the pharaoh left his body and traveled through the heavens. He journeyed through the realms of the planets and zodiac using passwords, gestures, and codes. Only after successfully passing the spheres could he then navigate through the Great Barrier and enter the people. This ritual form was connected to the Egyptian astral Gnosis and involved the pharaoh becoming the mediator for his people. In this role, he also prepared Egypt for the change which took place at the equinox of the gods. And one is the one to go sign and way to under the one any years before this event, the pharaoh and priesthood would work creatively time progressed, the Egyptians starred Gnosis, a divine lie of rebirth, and the secret that planetarian zodiacal mediation was passed from the pharaoh to a separate priesthood. With time and changes in both state and religion, the teachings were held under and the secret orders and brotherhoods. Even within the hermetic order of the Golden Dawn, we can find elements of the mediation right within its equinox reachings. To end it, the emphasis has changed to a meridian. The forces always where there's linked to the order and ends joined to its root line. As we head further into the Kali Yuga, it is the individual's task to use and transform the heavenly energies within him or herself. It is important to realize that energies, the zodiac, like those of the planets, are ambivalent. They receive and relay forces of both positive and negative nature. In a more medieval context, they are said to possess both spirits and intelligences. The Gnostic tradition has always been unsure of astrology and see the heavenly forces as energies which must be reckoned with, not gods to be worshipped. It would be possible to link Zoroaster, Gautama, Buddha, and Jesus, James, all into the nexus of the movement from Aries to Pisces. Indeed, the imagery of Pisces as the fish has much in common with Jesus and early Christianity. In Egyptian mythology, Taurus is also sometimes seen as the fisherman. There are many ways to image the astrologicum ages. In one Egypt tradition, Isis is related to Taurus, Osiris to Aries, Horus to Pisces, and Mot to Aquarius. The start of the Pyramid Age was linked to Leo, and many believe that the Sphinx was carefully lying to the image of Leo at the horizon, while it forms embodied the priestess of Virgo in the form of the lion, as it represented the change from one astrological age to the next.
Heraldic cycles. The Platonic year is 25,920 years long, and hence each sign cover to 160 years. Each of these signs can be further divided into minor precessual cycles, each of which is 180 years long. In each astrological age, the first minor cycle is of the same characteristic as that of the greater. Hence, in Pisces, The first minor cycle of 180 years was that of Pisces of Pisces. The last stage of the minor cycle is important as it is preparation for the changeover to the next stage. This cycle is known as the equinox of the gods in the present cycle. It began in 1844 and is ruled by Aries in the Egyptian initiatory traditions. This period was also known as the heraldic cycle. It was the period in which the priesthood prepared the symbolism, legends, and vessels for the influx of energy which would occur at the changeover to the new cycle. The cycle. Encompasses 4 different coordinates. These can be related to the 4 letters of the divine name. The 4 elements, the 4 canopic jars of mummification, and the 4 phases of the temple. Heraldic cycle. Element god name Pisces year. Initiation stand by ISE 4 to 4. Transmission air on 92.4. Consolidation water bar 19 sets the pole. Manifestation earth E20 tag it up. Aura sun head netta contents direction. Chronometer, Jackal Neve, Stomach North, Kebson of Hawk, Selkit Intestine South, Happy Baboon, Nephtes Lungs East, Amset Man, Isis Liver West. Probably the most explicit image of the 4 elements of the heraldic cycle are seen reflected in Egyptian temple architecture. The general style of Egyptian temples includes a great court, vestibule, hypostyle hall, and the great seat. This design was later adapted into what became the Israelite sanctuary and King Solomon's temple. In general, the Egyptian temple was surrounded by a massive wall of mud brick. This wall isolated the temple from its surroundings, which symbolically represented the forces of chaos. Metaphorically, the mud resulted from the union of heaven and earth. The brick wall itself was therefore set in wavy courses to symbolize the primeval unit, representing the 4th stage of creation. The exterior walls of the temple resembled a fortress, so as to defend it against ornate forms of evil. The temple was entered through 2 pylons, beyond which lay an open court. This court sometimes had colonnades along the sides of Emperor's view. Next, along the temple axis came the hypostyle, a pillared hall often surrounded by small rooms which are used for the storage of tumble and debris and for other secondary purposes. Finally, there was the sanctuary, which was a dark room containing the shrine where the figure of the netter was placed. The sanctuary's doors were shut and sealed all year long and were open only for the great festivals. The sanctuary was called the Great Seat.
approaching 1996. The temple symbolized a fourfold process which took place both within the heavens and the activity taken by the priesthood and the ritual activities. It has a specific obligation in a description of the process of cosmic mediation in the heraldic cycle. If you telescope the imagery, you could image a high priest moving through the stages of the temple. Each stage represents a period of interior which the priest requested walking and preparing. As he completes each stage, it would represent an aspect of the heraldic period. Only at the moment of the movement from one age to the next would he enter the sanctuary enchanted. Energies to the priesthood are to be sent to follow the priest years. The whole cycle has swarms Aquarius. We should examine the foreheads and the climax of poison. We have the poison now. Ritball is son of Aries. Aries is ruled by the planet Mars, and hence this suggests the violence and motion taught by poisons, which is a sign the emotion God Horus has taken in this last age, while Pisces bars off. Orpheus is wider, and hence we have the pixelation of will and emotion. While Pisces distributes power, Aries generates it, and hence the combination of these powers. Please, breaks, changes.
The attribution of Horus to Pisces is controversial and will raise the hackles of the disciples of Aleister Crowley, who believe the Eon of Horus began with his revelation in 1994. I do not aim to debate the Gnostic versus Thelemite position here. The linked document will cover that in some detail. If you want further information, the classic Gnostic position is to align Isis with Taurus, Taurus being the earth goddess. Osiris is assigned to Aries, and at the imagery of the sacrifice of rams to the Father God are throughout that period. Horus is Pisces. The imagery is related to Jesus as the fisherman, the ocean of mankind. The fish as Christian symbols is also found as a symbol of Horus. It's fish in the waters in the sunlight, solar image is found throughout the lists of that Syrian. Christianity left the fittings of this offer pointed upon to become a violent fossil form. Mars is Aquarius, the outpouring of truth, agnosis. The first date in our heraldic cycle is 1844. You get an initiation whereby the process of change from Pisces to Aquarius began. There are many other hidden indicators of this date. In the biblical fruition, there are specific prophecies that focus on this date. The 23rd year prophecy of a denting of the sanctuary began in the privileges of the privity, the operation of art, to restore Jerusalem and the age included as the prophecy focused on the solar sanctuary and the climax of it is when the sanctuary is
references include Daniel Lee Fontaine in 945, the 2520, 7 times. Prophecy focused on the loss of the 10 tribes of Israel to Hitzkari and the description of their reawakening to Gnosis starting in 1844. This period is also known as the time of the Gentiles and is referenced in Leviticus 26 and under the guise of the prophecy of the 7 times. 1844, there is trigger point with an Avraham Shoigu. It's also interesting in heading the religious uses as an instrument Christ. The Abetas and other Protestant sects of the period preached for the American that Jesus was returning and a great disappointment occurred due to a misunderstanding of this prophecy. The adult had to step living from the Adventists, including 730 and Majestic Mauritian Julians. The Fenians continues to believe Evan's date was significant of Jesus. And in 1844, Jesus entered the Holy of Holies in the Israelite temple and began an estimate of the dead during the period from 1847 to an unspecified date. The angels of the book of Revelation will unveil their messages and mankind prepare by tribulations. Heading towards the second coming of Jesus, this theology, while in a language different for the Egyptian heraldic cycle, is basically identical. The energy of Christ can be related to the solar force which meditates the astrological cycles, and hence we can easily erase the party whiskey imagery to the esoteric tradition 990 to 4. Many other denominations or profanations also for this revelation. So the explanation of blind and certainly house and somebody's living tradition. The boy of Boaz with a heart during the series will also be concerned with meditation. Just know that lady and makes you feel perfection. Lord is born and the case of Joseph moving into the pillars of the mountain. At the end of time, the activity is a fixed on illusion. Once a culmination takes a trolley, 1964 was the consolidation of the current in the sense that it has the energies accelerating society was pushed to the limit. The result being the opening up of the collective psyche, which brought about every possible extreme politically, sexually, emotional, and spiritually. The counter-gnosis intensified and became dominant in both fundamentalism and the syncretism of the New Age. However,
Other discoveries such as the Dead Sea Scrolls and Nag Hammadi library came into effect in this period and gave rise to the Gnostic life. What continues till this day. 2024 is the approximate date for the manifestation of Aquarius. However, do not expect it to be all love and light. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn or Uranus, depending on whether you use the modern attributions. Saturn is both the demiurge and the divine purifier. Uranus is the lord of the abyss or great barrier between the pleroma and the lower world. Aquarius will be an age of great ferocity, violence, terror, as well as growth and transfiguration for those who seek the light. One of the images associated with Aquarius is the peacock. The peacock was the sacred image of the Yazidi, a Islamic people who followed an ancient Gnostic religious tradition. The peacock was Melek Taus, who can be related to the demiurge, but at the same time the eyes of the peacock show us the infinitely dualism has no power, no reality, and hence the real source is beyond in the pleroma and the invisible spirit. The Gnostic identity message. What we know as a Gnostic identity message is central to our understanding of a Gnostic tradition. It is difficult to summarize such a complex subject as it demands an extensive study of the evolution of the vision, history and politics to grasp its meaning, and even further the thought to consider its ramifications. However, we need to at least examine some of the basic concepts on which the Gnostic identity message is founded. The crux of the Gnostic identity message is a radical reinterpretation of history. From our perspective, this reinterpretation is actually a return to the original essence of the Gnostic traditions. To appreciate these reinterpretations, it is imperative to consider the Bible in its original languages and in the context of the religious ideologies that prevailed at the period it was written. It is also imperative to understand the big picture which shows where the tradition originated and to consider the nature of Israel and the Gnostic view of Christianity. Origins. Suggest a common denominator between Gnosticism, Kabbalah, the Hebrew occultism, and Nordic and Vedic sources is to court disaster, at least in the eyes of modern scholarship. However, if we examine the research of those who laid the foundations for modern archaeology and anthropology, there is much evidence for a direct link between these divergent forms. If we take Kabbalah, for example, Jezarian, Maimonides, and Judaean mysticism, and re-examine the scholarly text on its origins. They all tend to agree that the Kabbalah had its roots in Greek and Hellenistic philosophy, Gnosticism, and Alexandrian Hermeticism, and furthermore, that it was only later adapted by Judaic sources. Authority as respected as Gershom, Skolem clearly suggests a strong Greek influence. If not Greek origin for the Kabbalah, indeed he posits the key Kabbalistic glyph of the Tree of Life as having obvious Greek and Gnostic origins. Nag Hammadi text, such as the secret book of John and the writings of the Valentinian Gnostic sect, all elucidate a hierarchical structure which could be seen as a precursor to later Kabbalistic glyphs and figures. If in turn we take our exploration further and give due consideration to the origins of Greek philosophy and esotericism, an Egyptian influence can be seen clearly on both Pythagoras and Plato. Such scholars as Heinrich Schliemann
forgotten the origins of their legends. Hails. Greek philosophy, Julius Evola, and many others suggest that this primal culture was based in the Arctic region, endured to severe weather changes, migrations, and placed in more diverse locations. While an Arctic origin to Viking culture may seem unusual to modern scholarship, it is exactly what was argued the Arctic home in the Venus. By Balgengether, Tilak.
In this work, Tilak argued for an earlier origin of Vedic culture in the interglacial period and used detailed astronomical and historical research to prove his thesis. He argued that the earliest records were from up to 35,000 BC. Slower to the pharaoh list of Manetho, but that the major impetus was circa 10,500 and 8,000 BC, when after the destruction of the original polar home, migrations began. These continued through the period of 8,000, 5,000 BC, with settlements through northern Europe and Asia. It was during the period of 5,000, 3,000 BCE, Yeshua calls the Orion period, that the Vedic hymns and sacrificial system were evolved. Other texts evolved between 3000 and 400, when the memory of the original homeland is dim.
Research in dating the Sphinx and early Egyptian culture, the work of John West, Bovell and Hancock, and others have significantly pushed back the dating of the foundation of Egypt, maybe to even as early as 500 BC. The latest dating of the Sphinx has a major effect on how we evaluate history. From geological research by Prof. Robert Schlock of Boston University, it has been conclusively proven that the Sphinx shows signs of major erosion from rainwater. The evidence suggests that this level erosion would have demanded a very different environment from today. When this is coupled with the astrological image that the Sphinx encodes, a likely dating is found around 500 BC. This is when the feet of the Sphinx would be aligned with Leo on the horizon. It also fits well with the erosion evidence. Many see this period when great cataclysms such as the onset of the last ice age changed the face of the earth, and Arctic man was driven to migration as the source from which later scattered esoteric traditions outward orations. This polar culture held within it the key, perennial wisdom of its people. This tradition was carried throughout northern Europe and Asia, and it is said that many of the early Vedic hymns can be dated from this period of wandering. However, by the time the later Vedic texts were written, circa 1400 BCE, The origins of their tradition had been forgotten, intricately related to the idea of a polar homeland, is the work of Rand and Rose Flammeth. When the sky fell, they offer extensive research to show the likelihood of the location of the legendary land of Atlantis being one and the same as the polar homeland, now covered in ice. It is suggested by Blavatsky that it is from this primal polar land that various races spread throughout the globe. There is some debate about the exact number of migrations. There is general agreement, certainly, that major settlements were made in Tibet, India, Sumer, Egypt, and South America. It is from the Sumer, Egypt basin that the Israelite mysteries developed. The Israel connection. In many people's minds that Moses and Akhenaten were the same people, and that the Israelites were his followers escaping from Egypt. This model certainly revisions all the Old Testament as we start to realize that Judaism in this earlier phase had little to do with what we see as mass shootings into Galilee. The evidence is then the enveloped the large desert culture of the English indevelopment fetters and their concept. Some stories were written at a much late date and were distorted by the then fundamentalist and nationalist priesthood. To appreciate this, we should revisit the Old Testament and see what we can find.
Yahweh, and reconsidering the Bible. There is more to the Old Testament than first meets the eye, and its study opens up a Pandora's box of issues. We need to consider modern scholars believe that the Old Testament is not a coherent whole. When it is subjected to biblical criticism, it is found that there are at least 3 different streams of information within it. The El stream, the Yahwehist stream, and the priestly stream. The El stream is the very earliest. It seems to represent the pagan traditions of Canaan and surroundings within this tradition. The gods are known as El, or the mighty ones. One of the more important is Baal. Associated with these gods are goddesses. The major being is known as a Terat, together Baal and Entatai form the basis of the pagan Canaanite tradition. As Israel became more nationalistic and political, the El tradition was suppressed. At the same time, a fundamentalist and Lichanax extreme arose within the society, and this new tradition was the Yahwehist stream. Yahweh becomes the mighty one. Baal is vanquished and replaced with the tradition of the coming warrior Messiah, with the goddess relegated to the shadows. The history of Israel is, in some sense, the vessel between these 2 streams of religious traditions, and between these 2 streams and the Gnosis. In studying the Old Testament, we need to realize
that it is not the word of God, but a remnant, historical record of what occurred within Israel at that period. While it contains the original mysteries, it is not primarily a religious text, but a mixture of myths, legend,
This molded Old Testament became the text of modern Jewry.
When the Gnostic migrated to other lands after the Assyrian captivity, they re-established many of the lusting Old Testament handles. The chants, the those of the Celtic faith probably had more than common, but the original emphatic gnosis that modern Judaism Christianity. They can see how the struggle between various adopted traditions and the origin. And for the Old Testament, Joseph's code, the very end, more example, a Sumerian symbol of a condition. What is the Korean symbol? Peace, the blameless, the old vision of very people. This of the God that this sort tradition is started. We don't parasite Christian belief. The first in sackcloth, the wrist in the image of the serpent. The serpent was a sacred symbol of the Israelite tradition. To know we all Testament, it is also used of the sorrow of wisdom. No peculiar that example to heal the people of Israel. In gematria, the serpent has the same numerical as the Christ and is seen as a type of Jesus. Yet, at the same time, the serpent is cursed in the priestly rendition of Genesis and seen as a symbol of evil. And the Lord said unto Moses, make thee a fiery serpent and set it upon a pole. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is bitten, when he looketh upon it, shall live. Numbers 21:8.
The symbol of Gnosis, wisdom, and the earliest traditions. Again, while we can see remnants of the Gnostic faith in the myths and legends of Genesis, we can also see clearly the later addition of elements that the fundamentalist priesthood could use to fight against the Etredite tradition. While we do not aim to try and summarize the Kodesh tradition, here it was an inner esoteric tradition that embodied a special form of technology aimed at transforming man into God. It represented the highest class within the spiritual hierarchy and included forms of shamanism, ritual technology, and Gnostic science. It was the esoteric heart of the Israelite people,
regardless of the nature of the outer forms. Will this servant to the inner grace for the Gnostic sects and is at the heart of the Gnostic faith? The sacred serpent. Serpent is an image central to the Gnosis. While this may at first seem unusual, when we come to appreciate the esotericism of the serpent, we can understand its significance. The major problem which arises with the iconography of the serpent or snake is the prejudice found in most Christian literature. This all too clearly, however, comes from a misunderstanding of the image and distortion found in the Old Testament text. The Bible as a whole has an ambivalent view of the serpent or snake. On one hand, it seems to be represented as evil, even as an icon of the devil himself, while on the other it is used to represent wisdom and even perhaps salvation. The most obscure image is that found in Numbers. 21, 8, 9, and Isaiah 15. 21, 8, 9, and Isaiah 15 is pretty mine. The serpent was used as image of redemption. Moses holds up. Israel. Most Christian scholars agree that this is a type of the coming Messiah. In Christian terms, Jesus himself accordingly. We have the unusual suggestion of the serpent as Jesus in Hebrew numerology. The numerical value of the serpent or snake is that of the Messiah. Many Gnostic sects saw the serpents as the agent of redemption and the primary symbol of gnosis. The Ophites, from the Greek word for serpent, Ophis. Like many modern Gnostic groups, ourselves included, many thought the serpent of the Genesis story was a representative for the Lord of Light, while the Creator depicted in the Old Testament was seen as the demiurge. It has been suggested that since there was no town known as Nazareth existing in the first century Common Era, that the epithet Nazarene may actually be Nazarene, which means the serpentine, and refers to Jesus' ancestry within the Gnostic communion. The iconography of the serpent links to Gnostics with the earliest occult traditions. In ancient Egypt, the serpent was the symbol of duality. It was both creative and destructive. Since it had both the polarity dual plenus, it was used to represent the producers for good and evil. Within sensuality, the intellect. As the serpent of earth, it represented that which destroys, the constant returning to the earthly cycles. In this representation, it was reproductive, earthbound, and destructive. While for the Egyptians, the heavenly serpent was that which gave man the knowledge to perceive the divine, the Egyptians were well aware that serpents don't fly. But by giving the serpent wings, they emphasized the unique difficulty of going beyond the earthly cycles. The shedding of skin was a useful image for the cycle of eternal reoccurrence, whereby all things repeat until
cycles of ordinary life.
Within the traditions of Gnosticism, the serpent is used to represent the path of the pneumatic, the highest path to the treasury of light in our tradition, as in the Valentinian Gnostic school. There were 3 grades: the hylic, psychic, and pneumatic. The hylic was that of everyday man. It was sometimes represented by a crawling serpent, the snake of earth. The hylic is the bulk of humanity. It is little innate spark of life and generally is a creature of instinct. The psychic was the first path of salvation and was represented pinodite. The Sethic is a mixture of light, mind, and flesh and is dominated by his lower instinct. He needs the guidance of the Gnostic school to achieve liberation. The secret path was that of the serpent of light, the Weenan serpent. This path is followed by the pneumatics, the parfait or children of the pleroma, the duality. Represented by the snake is very sweated. In some way, the hands at the secret techniques used. Within the higher path, the very things that condemn the halic to earth are turned and used to liberate the pneumatic. The serpent is therefore expressed in the potential gnosis. The winged serpent represents the highest wisdom, while the crawling serpent represents the decay of earth. The duality of the snake is the dualism of the ancient wisdom. Israel on the world stage. If we continue from our Egyptian Israelite model, the next question is what happened to the Israelite community? The historical evidence suggested that the priest class created a literalist, fundamentalist cult which came to the forefront in Judaism after the time of Jesus. But where did earlier Israelites go? We know that ancient Israel, whose capital was Samaria, was taken captive by the Assyrians in 721 BC. And yet after this traditional history tells us that the 10 tribes are lost. And is this really so? Or has history also been twisted by scribes and politicians? We know that Josephus, writing in 70 states, the 10 tribes did not return to Palestine. Only 2 tribes serviced the Romans after Palestine became a Roman province, according to 2nd Esdras,
a book within the New Testament, a part of follow.
The 10 tribes moved 1,000 miles west to southeast Awasha to become the people history knows as the Scythians in race and civilization. Roger Trussell's writes Nordic Scythians overrun Palestine, the 7th century, in history of the Sake or Scythians with their many triadistic branches is well worth following. They originated in Southeast Europe and moved through Asia as far as Turkestan and Afghanistan, even into India to the
racial stock and heritage as ancient Israel. Now it is possible that Israel disappeared in one section of the world and the progenitors of the Anglo-Saxon Celtic appeared in the same place a few years later without the two peoples being in any way related. But hardly probable. The overwhelming circumstantial. Evidence gives it appear that the lost tribes of Israel, to the progenitors of the Anglo-Saxon Celtic people were one and the same. And when, in addition to the circumstantial evidence, cognizance is taken that these people have fulfilled what the prophets wrote of Israel, the probability becomes a certainty. Sharon Turner. They need to be seen as indigenous mystery cults passed down from father to son, and embodying the secrets of creation. When Israel was taken into captivity, a large segment of these teachings went with her and were transmitted to different locations around the globe, and remnants remain in forms alien to what many would consider to be a Judaico-Christian at all. One of the major focus points of this tradition was within Ireland.
The Druid connection. A classic example is found in the Druidic traditions. It is believed by many that the Druids became the priest class of Israel in exile after they had settled in Ireland and England. Many facets of the early Druidic faith resemble what we know of the original Israelite mysteries. The secret alphabet which the Israelites used was sustained by the Druids and for mnemonic purposes was related to trees,
Related to birds and animals.
The Druids also met in outdoor sanctuaries,
Certainly the original Israelite way of worship,
kept to their own and sustained a priesthood, which had much in common with the Celts, certainly the native religion of the Celts and many other Indo-Europeans, betray a strong similarity to the Israelite traditions. 1. Interesting fact to note is that according to many modern linguists, Galatia, which has more words taken from Hebrew than any other language worldwide, this and many other historical facts suggest that the traditions of early England, rather than being darkly pagan, were actually Gnostic and probably embodied more truth than what was being taught in the churches that were attacking them for heresy. A later tradition regarding the relationship of Jesus to the Druids adds even further light on these connections. In regard to Jesus traveling to Greenland, the details are sketchy, but delightful. The evidence suggests that Israel was more in proper polymeration, and many scholars have realized that in links with many peoples and many cultures, Joseph of Arimathea was a very rich man, and it is now believed he bought and traded tin and other items from bases in England, probably Cornwall and Somerset. We know that after the death of Jesus around 86-3, St. Philip actually sent Joseph and others back to England to preach the gospel. First victory of Berlin, then Pontius by Philo that had the widely posted.
regards to Jesus. Traveling to Britain with Joseph, there are many traditions in Somerset and other localities that certainly suggest same is even suggested the relocation of Glastonbury Cathedral is where Jesus and Joseph built their hut on their first trip to Britain. In the western confines of Britain, there is a certain royal island of large extent, surrounded by water, abounding in all the beauties of nature and necessaries of life. In it, the first neophytes of Catholic law, God beforehand equating, found a church constructed by no human hands on divine Christ for the salvation of his people. The Almighty has made it manifest by many miracles and mysterious visitations that he continues to watch over it as sacred to himself. A letter from St. Augustine to Pope Gregory. Amazing as it may seem, even the Druids believe that Jesus came to Britain and taught them the esoteric teachings. For example, Taliesin the Bard and Druid states, Christ the Word from the beginning was from the beginning our teacher, and we never lost his teachings. There are many volumes examining the details of Jesus' trek to Britain. Some of the more important examine the historical record of Glastonbury, which can be traced right back to the chapel built by Jesus himself. For this reason, the site has continued to remain sacred and became the center of other important legends and religious tales such as King Arthur and his knights, obviously, since Britain was the destination for so many of the lost tribes of Israel. We may expect that it would be of paramount importance for the early spreading of the message from many of Ireland and England were the first countries outside Palestine to receive the Christian message. The Essen link. Connected to these migrations is another very important link. When it's some of the Gnostic when it retired of Krebstein after the captivity, not all accepted the Roman war and integrated into the secular state. Though the Pharisees and Sadducees continue the fundamentalism form of Judaism, some of those who returned kept the original faith and separated themselves off into the deserts. Though this group traveled from location to location around the Prague 180 BC, they formed a secret communal order to sustain the ancient mystery in the deserts of Palestine. This group kept separate from the rest of the local Putinus around Krumtats with Greek and perhaps even Gypsies free cults. They were not insular but taught a form of the mysteries with both its Greek and Egyptian elements. This group was known as the Essays and forms an important link in the surviving of the Gnosis through the dark time from Constantine's rule to the present. If it is true, as everyone attests, that Moses left an oral law, it is amongst the Essenes that it was preserved. The Pharisees who flattered themselves so highly on possessing it only has its outward forms, as Jesus reproaches them at every moment. It is from these latter that the modern Jews descend. La langue hébraïque. Faber D. Olivet. While we will study the Essenes in more detail later, they form an important background as it is. From them that Jesus came and re-established the Gnostic faith. They are not an easy group to understand, as they were in some sense transitionary. While they tried to keep the original Israelite faith, they were also corrupted by many local customs, laws, and beliefs, and hence, while their hearts were in the right place, their beliefs were not. Their value is more in the bridge they created for the Gnostic traditions and Jesus than in their own doctrinal stance. Jesus was not a Jew racially or by geography. He was a Galilean. He was certainly not a Jew by religion either, but an Israelite in the essence sense. In this context, we can then see how Gnosticism, or real Christianity, developed out of the Israelite essence, not the fundamentalist or literal Judaism of the Pharisees. They, the essence, were not waiting to receive the law they already possessed. Their aim was to deliver it from the realms of darkness in which it had been engulfed. The Torah, that is, the divine teachings as revealed to Moses, it was held, been successively perverted by false expositors. The Dead Sea Scriptures, Theodor Gaster, Doubleday, and why the essence, Jesus, of the foundation, the Gnosticism. The work of Jesus is central, the transformation of the Gnostic tradition. Jesus as a pre-existent spirit. The archangel Michael took human form so he could show the way back to the pleroma. He was born and lived as a human with the same potential for failing, same potential for suffering as all humans. He experienced the tides of the material world and overcome them. He traveled the world in his so-called missing years, studying in both India and Britain, bringing the threads of the Missouri tradition to a common climax, while at the same time achieving a mastery of himself and the world around him. The baptism of Jesus shows clearly his ice wave of initiation. His energy field has been cleansed of its fallen elements by Sophia. And in recognition of his achievements, the divine will acknowledges his new state. Michael is not Jesus, the Christ. The Christ state being antecedent of communication with the mind of God or the Logos. As soon as Jesus was baptized, he went up out of the water. With that moment, heaven was opened. He saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and lighting on him. And a voice from heaven said, "This is my Son whom I love. With him I am well pleased." Matthew 3:16, 17. Jesus was now in a position to transform the human situation as a Son of God, a being whose essence is in commune with the Logos, and whose actions embody the Holy Spirit. He now went about his task of redeeming Israel. He was the Messiah from the land of light, come for his people. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions: do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. For love as the lost sheep of Israel. As you go, preach this message. The Kinimbum, the Helen is near. He answered, I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel. Matthew 10:5-7.
cleverly brought together many streams of esotericism into one font of secret wisdom. This teaching was certainly for Israel, but in a new sense, it was for those prepared for initiation, not for any discrete historical, cultural, or racial class alone. This gnosis or secret knowledge clearly inferred that doctrine or belief was not enough. Jesus himself had to spiritually transform the nature of the material plane. So a new current, a new vibration was available which offers redemption from our false perceptions and our self-created imprisonment.
The aim of life is to offer man a chance to gain salvation, to enter the path of transfiguration. Since time immemorial, the Pleroma has outlined an escape route, a path by which man may awaken the true self and grasp the gift of immortality. And immortality is a gift. In all mythologies we find a quest for immortality, a trial that leads to a reward of life eternal. In the 12 labors of Hercules, we have a series of initiations which led to eternal life, while in the quest for the golden fleece, we have Jason overcoming immense odds to grasp the divine will offers man many chances to gain immortality, and these chances take place in many lives. Reincarnation with Gnostic thought is not the same as it is with an Eastern philosophy. Reincarnation occurs within a limited period and offers the opportunity for immortality. It is not an immortal soul gaining experience, but a mortal self being offered opportunity. An opportunity to enter the spiritual path. Reincarnation is also limited in time. While we do not know the number of lives or opportunities man is given, there is a limited time allotment of which the cycle is completed and unredeemed life sparks cease to individually exist unless they have been reawakened by transfiguration, the Bible, and reincarnation. Now you may react by arguing that there is no biblical authority for reincarnation. However, I am afraid that you would be very, very wrong. In the early Christian church, there were many that taught reincarnation. Clement
Clement of Alexandria, Origen, Jerome, Gregorius, Augustine, and Arelius, to name but a few. It was only during the Council of Nicaea in 1305 AD that the concept of reincarnation became unpopular. And this was coupled with the development of teachings regarding the Trinity, eternal hellfire, purgatory, and other dogmas which were imported into the church for political reasons by Emperor Constantine. It was only in AD 553 at the Second Council of Constantinople that reincarnation was finally and formally condemned. In regards to scripture itself, it is obvious that church copyists have removed many of the classic reincarnation references. However, references still do occur if you look closely and carefully. Analyze what you read. In the book of Revelation, we have an exciting description of what will occur at the end of the earth cycle, when the born again, the spiritually transformed into the new king spans, the description of following is outlined. Him that overcometh him will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more. And I will write upon him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my God. And I will write upon him nice name. Revelation 3:12. This verse clearly explains that those who have overcome, that is, those who complete their development, will become a pillar in the temple of God, and he shall go and no more. That is, he will reincarnate no longer. This is obviously the message intended in this verse. Also, when we examine the Gospels, we find Jesus asking the disciples, "Who do they think I am?" You would think that when the disciples answer in terms of reincarnation, and if this was incorrect, Jesus would certainly correct them. Surely he would not let them continue in their ignorance. But no! Jesus accepts what they say and simply corrects them in regards to his own identity. When Jesus came into the coasts of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, "Whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" And they said, "Some say that thou art John the Baptist, some Elias, and others Jeremias, or one of the prophets." He said unto them, "But whom say ye that I am?" And Simon Peter answered and said, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God." Matthew 16:30.
continuing to analyze each verse. One by one, let me just give you a couple by themselves to consider. But they which shall be accounted worthy to obtain that world, and the resurrection from the dead, neither marry nor are given in marriage, neither can they die any more, for they are equal unto the angels and are the children of God, being the children of the resurrection. Now that the dead are raised, even Moses shewed at the bush, when he calleth the Lord the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob. Luke 20:35-37. But thou, Bethlehem Ephratah, though thou be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall he come forth unto me that is to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth have been from of old, from everlasting. Micah 5:2. I think from these references it becomes quite clear that reincarnation was taught by the early Gnostic Christian church, and even though the Bible has gone through constant editing and rewriting, reincarnation still survives into the modern translations. The mechanism of reincarnation. To understand the way in which reincarnation works, we have to examine the effects of our actions. Now, in generally held Christian views, there is a belief that actions do not have an effect. We ask for forgiveness, and all is gone. This is obviously not correct. Every action has an effect. Even if the moral and the if is big, punishment was removed from an act by asking for forgiveness. The nature of the act remained. For example, that hepatitis from a heroin injection. While I may be forgiven for damaging my temporal physical vehicle, I still have to deal with the disease. This process of cause and effect is found in many different traditions. In some forms of Eastern philosophy, it is known as sanskaras or karma. If a soul, when it has entered the body, persists in evil, it does not taste the fruits of rain till, but is dragged back again. It reverses its course and takes its way back to creeping things, and that ill-fated soul, having failed to know self, lives in servitude to uncouth and audacious bodies. In this doom are vicious souls condemned aimings. In the Western tradition, it is figuratively called the Book of Judgment. This book is a balance sheet of the actions of the person as he reincarnates. As time progresses, the positive and negative attributes of a person's life weigh against each other, and the person continues to reincarnate. At various stages, the balance will reach a crucial stage, and accordingly, the circumstances of a person's life will drastically change to give them a further opportunity to enter transfiguration. These opportunities continue until the Omega Day, when the cycle draws to a close if the person has entered the spiritual life. Then during these stages, a slow and steady transformation of the mind into true self will occur. This process is called transfiguration. And the born again person's name is figuratively transferred to the book of life. No longer is a record kept of action and reaction, but a record of growth and spiritual transformation. He that overcomes, the same shall be clothed in white raiment. And I will not blot out his name out of the book of life, but I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels. Revelation 3:5. Transfigurism aims at nothing more nor less than demolition
ignore the opportunities enough, then at the Omega Day we may end up simply ceasing to exist. If we accept the opportunity, then our names are transferred to the Book of Life. Then our transformation begins. Heaven and hell. Considering heaven and hell in the biblical text is the problem of textual distortion. One of the easiest ways to come to an honest understanding is to let the original terms speak for themselves. For example, there are many different terms for hell, like the many differing names of God. The various modern copyists have tended to use one word in numerous locations, where in reality, there are multiple words in the original Hebrew or Greek, which each offer many possible interpretations.
Hell on earth. The term Sheol is used a lot in the Bible, and as used in the Old Testament can be interchanged with grave, pit, and abode of the dead. It is used to describe the state of the dead in relation to earth. The dead have no consciousness in relation to earth as they have returned to it. The grave, or the state of being dead without consciousness, is used to represent the lack of awareness the reincarnating soul has of the earth sphere time and time again. This term is used to refer to cessation of activity and not in reference to an eternal fire or to any spiritual realm. Hell. First, it stands for the Hebrew Sheol of the Old Testament and the Greek Hades of the Septuagint and the New Testament Sheol in Old Testament times. Referred simply to the abode of the dead and suggested no moral distinctions. The word hell, as understood today, is not a happy translation. Collier's Encyclopedia Latin 96 Vol 12 PG 28. The term Hades is the New Testament equivalent of the Hebrew Sheol and therefore has the same meaning. The grave, or in esoteric terms, the astral plane where a soul resides between incarnations and returns to earth again and again and again. The general tone of these biblical terms are negative, that is, that the process of returning to the grave and returning back to earth is painful and destructive. From a Gnostic perspective, this is certainly true. The other term regularly used for hell explains this even better. Gehenna, the Earth's the New Testament, has a very specific meaning and symbolism. It literally refers to the valley of Hinnom and Hens. And it may be even tested in the context of what this valley darker aspects of our world into which we are forced to reincarnate criminals. Carcasses of animals and every kind of filth. When we die, the body is eaten by animals or burnt by sulfur. Or in more modern terms, cremated or buried, and our soul then again must return. This sort of eternal reoccurrence, hell on earth, is the iconography of Hades, Sheol and Gehenna. It is the real meaning of hell. While we may see the world as a form of the divine, and should avoid unnecessary dualism in regards to our bodies and matter, in the end, we must also accept that the world is a temporary